Hi friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge. Today we're taking a look at the Bestech Fin or Fin. I'm thinking it might be Fin as in the French word for end, the end, because it's a dagger. We've got 14C28 and stainless steel, G10, flipper, liner lock. I was looking at the camera so I missed the flipper. It's an interesting knife. There's not very much information about this out. It's a brand new knife from Bestech. Stick around, I'll tell you what I know. So let's take a close look at this thing. Clearly, we've got a spear point dagger. We've got a fuller down the middle, which has been bead blasted, as has the ricasso. So it was all bead blasted before they grinded the bevels in. Is it grinded or ground? Probably ground. We've got a very pointy tip. Forward choil here. It's not quite as big as I'd like it to be, but it's there. Of course, we've got a false edge here. And I know I'm going to right away get some people thinking, can you sharpen that edge? Of course you can. But it's a dumb idea. When the knife is closed, you want to put that in your pocket with that edge sharp? I think you'll change your mind after you do it. Then the handle here, G10, it comes in 12 different ways. Different types of G10, some multicolored G10, or you can get an all blackened blade, or you can get the flat and the fuller blackened and satin on the grinded or ground bevels. And yeah, so all kinds of combinations of those 3 different ways of doing the blades and the different ways of doing the handle. But they're all $68 US. Bestech doesn't allow different prices. Everybody's got to sell it for the same amount. So this is $68 wherever you shop. But at White Mountain Knives, you can get 10% off with coupon code CCE. And that's going to turn this into $61.20 American. The Canadian equivalent after the discount is about $78 Canadian, or you can go and buy it at Blades Canada, also known as Warriors and Wonders, and pay $120, 50% more, a little over 50% more. So if you don't like shopping at White Mountain Knives, my fellow Canadians, it is available in Canada at Blades Canada. I just wouldn't want to pay 50% more. Anyhow, the blade, or the knife. We've got some jimping at the thumb rest on the handle and the spine of the blade. Good grip right in there, good texture. I'm kind of glad they didn't try to put the jimping further up because, you know, when it's this narrow here, you know, that's going to just bite into your thumb like crazy. So your thumb, it rests way back here. Which leads me to wonder why they put a forward choil on. If you're not putting your thumb very far forward, why would you want to put your index finger forward? Especially when it's so small that you're going to cut the side of your finger, at least if your fingers are anywhere near my size. Yeah. If they were going to do this, I wish they would have made it just a little bit bigger. They've got some room right here that they could have used, made that smaller, or just moved the whole flipper back a tiny bit. Or move the whole cutout here another almost 1/8 of an inch closer to the handle, so that when your hand is on here, you'd also be touching the G10. That would be more comfortable. Forward choils are often done poorly. I don't understand why, but they are. The mirror kind of concept on the G10 here, you've got that fuller is mirrored here in some milling onto the G10, as are the grinds, the bevels. It's a decent looking knife. Pocket clip, right side only. And it's a bit of an ugly pocket clip. Look how far out the thing sticks from the handle of the knife. Like you could have, you know, thick, heavy winter thermal denim jeans on, and it would still bottom out just fine, even though they use button screws. This pocket clip just doesn't look right for this knife, in my opinion. We've got this chunky, blocky thing, and then this sleek kind of blade. Functionality, yeah, it works just fine. But the looks of it, and I don't know, it just doesn't seem to fit with this knife very well. Lanyard hole, because of the back spacer, it's a tube all the way through. Quite nice. We've got jimping on the back spacer. And then here on the belly of the handle, there's jimping again. So you can really get a good solid grip on this knife in either hand. Made quite well. There's skeletonizing in there. We've got ceramic ball bearings and detent in there, and it's a liner lock. Actually, before we get any further on that, I forgot to do the size comparison. Here's the Ontario Rat 1, and yeah, very much the same size knife as an Ontario Rat 1, which is a big knife. Not a super crazy Espinada by Cold Steel or anything, but yeah, it's a big knife. Talking about the lockup system and everything, the blade deployment, the flipper tab has got a little bit of jimping on it and flips open very well. You can use the light switch method as well, pulling back like that. Because the detent on here is very good, it opens very well. If you just hold the handle of the knife and do your arm flick and come to a sudden stop, the blade doesn't come out. I've tried that. I like that. That's the way knives have to be to come into Canada. Otherwise, they call them centrifugal knives. That's good. Lockup, it's a little bit earlier than I like. Not much earlier, just a tiny bit earlier. The lock release arm here, it's got a nice little cove milled into the steel liner right there. Lots of access milled into the liner on this side. So it's easy to get your thumb in there to disengage the lock. Very good. And even though it's early lockup, I forgot to say it's solid. You know, I gave it some spine whack tests, and it's a good solid lockup. Blade alignment when it's closed, pretty close to perfect if you ask me. It's done well. Let's take a look at the inside of this knife now. So here it is taken apart. I took it apart on this side. This screw here, I probably really should have taken the pocket clip off first. There's not totally clear access to it. Yeah, next time I'll take the pocket clip off first. So 2 screws holding it plus the pivot. And there's the screw. It's well made, T8, and these guys are T6s. A little bit of skeletonizing there. A D-shaped pivot pin. You can see the D-shaped hole right there that index is on. Ceramic detent ball and ceramic ball bearings in phosphor bronze cages. And that's why the action's so good. It's a well-made knife. Simple, easy to take apart and clean if you need to. Works well. Time to do the size comparisons, and not the size comparisons, the specs and all that stuff. The weight of this knife, 131 grams, 4.6 ounces. That's quite good. The balance point, that's not really on the specs, is it? But I'll do it right now anyways, because I just thought of it. It's smooth G10, so it's sliding around on my finger here. There we go. So decent balance point, pretty close to perfect location for it. The sharpness from the factory, 265. It's quite uncommon that I see a number over 200 from my testing, and that's because the sharpening grind on this thing was done pretty poorly. We'll get to that in just a second. The cutting edge length is 88.8 millimeters, 3.4955, so 3.5-inch cutting edge. The blade length, tipped to the closest spot on the G10 here, 91.1 millimeters, 3.5865 inches. The thickness of the blade up here at the ricasso, 3.32 millimeters, which is 0.1305 inches, so just over 1/8 of an inch thick. The blade depth, it's biggest right at the heel of it, 29.5 millimeters, 1.161 inches. The thickness of the edge behind the grind, I usually do it, about 1/3 of the way up the blade, about an inch up from the heel usually. This time it was about an inch and a half up where I measured it. 0.64 millimeters. That's 25 thousandths of an inch. That's another reason why I don't like the sharpness on this very much. I'd like that cutting edge to be 20 thou or less, half a millimeter or less. The grind angles on this thing. Again, I measured at that same spot where I measured the sharpness. 25.1 degrees, 28.6 degrees. So it's much more of a blunt edge coming in than it could be. It should be. With 14C 28N steel, I'm thinking 18 degrees, 16 degrees even. For a knife that's going to be used for what this is designed to be used, for puncturing into things. It's got a decent strength on the tip, but it's not made for puncturing into metal and stuff. It's softer tissues, so they could have made this easily, 15 thou, and it would just slide in like a hot knife through warm butter. Let's talk about the handle now. The handle length, 11.99 centimeters. That's 4.7205 inches. The grip area, it's a bit over 10 centimeters, a bit over 4 inches. Lots of grip area. Extra large hands have no problem being comfortable with this knife. Men's small hands might find it a little big. The handle thickness, not counting the pocket clip, 14.4 millimeters. That's 0.567 of an inch. The handle depth in the grip zone right here, the widest point is 26.9 millimeters. That's 1.059 inches. With the knife closed, the widest spot is right here, 35.5 millimeters, 1.3975 inches. And the total length of the knife from blade to heel, tip to heel, 21.09 centimeters, 8.303 inches. So yeah, it's got decent dimensions. It's made fairly well. The action's pretty smooth. I did have the pivot come loose during my testing because there's no Loctite in there, which is what I like. I like knives not to have Loctite so that I can put in what I want to into those threads. I prefer VC3 by Threadmate, which is not by Threadmate, VC3 Threadmate by Vibratite, because it holds very well and it's reusable. So what do I think of this knife? The pros, well, there's quite a few pros on it. It's a decent looking knife. The design is well done. The action's good. The access to the lock is good. The flipper behaves well because we've got a good detent. And it's fairly comfortable in, just about any grip you want to grip this knife in. It works okay. That forward choil, not so much. Another con, look at this tip. On this side, it looks like that center line is pretty close. On this side, man, that thing is way off center. How did they do one side way off center from the other side when this thing was CNC milled? I can't see them having humans, grind these with such perfect grind lines every single time. This has been, prepped in a machine. Something's off. These plunges on both sides, they're not in the same spot. Take a look at this zone where the fuller ends. And on this side, the plunge goes straight in. But on the false side, the plunge, you can see it ending and curling over. Just little things, not so great. The lanyard, that's good. Pocket clip, functional. Well, let's show you. Wants to climb over right away? That's a good thing. It always goes all the way in, even with those button screws. And there's lots of room in that pocket clip right there. It sits in there just fine. They could have done a smaller pocket clip in terms of how far it stands off of the knife. You can just look down in between there, no problem. There's a lot of space behind the pocket clip that doesn't need to be there. And it looks kind of clunky. We've got smooth lines all over the knife, and then we've got these blocky lines on the pocket clip. Oh well, it's not that big a deal, but it's there. Right side only, that'll bug some people. Screws, button screws that are pushed into G10, yeah, I just find them to be ugly. But the quality of these screws, these are nice and hard. None of them have any damage on them, which is a good thing. So they're using good hardware in terms of the metallurgy, the quality that they're using. It's just I'd like them to use something different. We've got a hidden stop pin back in there. I don't particularly like having such a wide open access to the ball bearings there for dirt to get in. Overall, what do I think of this knife? If you're looking for a flipper dagger, you could do a whole lot worse. Although there's not all that many out on the market. For $68 US minus 10%, sure, it's a decent knife. Thank you for watching my little video. Thank you for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Bye for now.